Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cool Sports Guy. I'm Tom. Joining me today is Jarrett. How are you doing today, Jarrett?
This is maybe one of the worst days in my sports fan life, but we're trucking through it.
Here we go. Well, welcome to the show. We're going to be talking about free agents that are going to be coming up, so potential free agent landing spots and where we wish they should go. And we're also going to be talking about a couple of trades that happened. I'm going to let Jarrett take the floor soon on the Khalil Mack trade that just came through. So let's start with the free agents. So we each have a list of free agents that we have named out that we know that or we think which team they should go to. So I'm gonna let you start with yours. If you want to give me one or two of yours.
So with the very first one I have on my list, so I had these written down, ready to go for the podcast, and literally right before we started, I had to change one of them because I had the Los Angeles Chargers getting a pass rusher, which obviously they don't need anymore. I have Mr. Chandler Jones, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals. I thought originally that was a great fit for the Chargers, which apparently the Chargers also they needed a pass rusher, so they went and got one. I still kept Chandler Jones on my list just because I think that it's a relatively big name. I know he didn't have a great season last year after his Week 1 5-sack game. He kind of dropped off the planet of the earth, or dropped off the planet, whatever the saying is. I have him on a different team in the AFC West, though. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not the Chargers. I think another good fit will be the Denver Broncos. Trading Von Miller middle of the year last year, they could use a pass rusher opposite of Bradley Chubb. And I'm saying this hypothetically if Von Miller doesn't go back. I think Chandler Jones would be a good fit in Denver. The trade for Russell Wilson kind of solidifies the fact that they're going to go kind of all out for a championship. Russell Wilson's not the youngest guy in the world. Getting talent to compete for a championship around him is probably a good idea. And I think Chandler Jones, while he will be a little bit pricey, I think given the fact that he's getting older and his season last year outside of Week 1 wasn't great, I think they could get him for a solid deal. And I think that that's a great fit. I feel like you have a comment you've been waiting to make.
It wasn't about Chandler Jones. It was.
Oh.
I was gonna say it's drop off the face of planet Earth, but then somewhere in that line you almost said Planet of the Apes instead.
We're gonna move past that.
Okay, we just started.
Since he went to second one on my list, I have Teron Armstead, left tackle from the New Orleans Saints.
Okay.
I think this one makes sense. You could probably guess where I'm going with this. Cincinnati Bengals, without a doubt. They have quite a lot of money to spend this offseason. And I'm not saying go spend it willy-nilly. That's not how you build a team. But they do need an offensive line to protect Burrow, and Teron Armstead is one of the best left tackles in the league. Instantly makes sense to me. They have as you've seen, like especially in the playoffs, they have a great defense. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, a great running back. They have one of the best wide receiver trios in the league. Pretty solid tight ends with CJ Uzama. All they need is an offensive line. Get you a left tackle. I mean, it's that simple. And one of the good offensive linemen don't hit free agency very often because teams don't like letting go of good offensive linemen. There's a chance to get one of the best left tackles, if not the best left tackle in the league this offseason. I think there's no doubt you go for that.
Fair enough. Okay, so I'm gonna start at the bottom of my list. So for me, one of the names that popped out, and this probably has a lot to do with how much Patriots game I've seen in the past however many years, was Kyle Van Noy. He's going to be a free agent, and I think he's still got some fire left in him. And I think he should go to a team that's ready to win now, and where he could help out. And I think he can help out the Chiefs a lot. So I got Kyle Van. Yeah,
I kind of dig it.
Yeah, I know that's probably the most odd take I have out of everybody on this list, and that's why he's my number 10. It's just kind of out there, but I think the Chiefs are a win now team, and having a good linebacker, an experienced linebacker who can, kind of help that locker room also. I mean, he comes from a great um, a place with great winning culture too. And the Chiefs have a winning culture. Andy Reid has a winning culture, and I think it could be a pretty good fit to help them win because they're a win now team. And I think he's got maybe, I don't know, just a couple of years left in him before hits the fan. So that's the the next one I have is actually your boy Mitch Trubisky. I think the Panthers should sign Mitch Trubisky.
Interesting.
And here's why. That entire conference right now is a joke. Brady's gone from the Bucks. New Orleans don't know who their quarterback is. Matt Ryan, I predicted them to win the division, but I don't think they're gonna be that great of a team. So I think Mitch should go to Panthers, and then I have somebody else coming to Panthers too, but I'll get to that in just a second. I think he's definitely a far better option than what they have right now. So
you don't trust Sam Darnold or Cam Newton?
Absolutely not. Cam Newton, I don't have any more trust at all. Sam Darnold, no, absolutely not. I'm just gonna give you my next one, and then I'll let you take the next few. It's actually Allen Robinson.
Okay.
I think Allen Robinson should also go to the Panthers. He's played with Mitch Trubisky before. I think that'll be a pretty good duo back together in Carolina. I think they can make something happen.
Okay. I don't know if I agree with the Allen Robinson one as much. I do have both of them on my list though, just to different teams than what you have. So that might get a little interesting. Also, yeah, if you have any disagreements with me on my picks, you can make sure to let me know on those. But I guess since you listed them two, I'll list them too for where I have them. Mr. Trubisky, I know it's been in the news a lot that the team that's super interested in him and they want him to compete for a starting job is the New York Giants. Don't do that. Don't go to the Giants. Terrible franchise. I know they've won a Super Bowl a lot more recently than like the Bears or something, but they've been a dumpster fire of an organization as of late. The Panthers, they're like the new generation of dumpster fire teams. I think Matt Rule originally when he got hired as a head coach, I thought it was a great hire. But my God, has he ruined this team? I don't think that's. I mean, obviously, he's not going to have the pick of whatever situation he wants to go to. He's going to go to one where he can compete for a starting job. So I will agree with you on that. But I have him kind of, aiming for something a little bit better. I think for Mitch, a good fit would be the Indianapolis Colts. Just got rid of Wentz. They're the only quarterback
That's very true.
on their roster right now that I can think of is Sam Ehlinger, who was. He slid in the draft coming out of UT because he's undersized. He doesn't have the strongest arm. They could use a quarterback. There's not many available unless they want to trade for Deshaun Watson. The Texans are going to trade him in the division if the cases are dropped. I mean, not many other options outside of that. I think in free agency, I'm a Mitch fanboy, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think Mitch is by far the best option in free agency. Him or Jameis Winston would both be pretty good options.
Yeah.
I think Mitch is the way to go. Another good team I could see him going to is also the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because Kyle Trask I don't think is ready to start just yet. But I think the Colts would be a good situation. They have a great defense. They have a great running back. Their receiving core isn't the best, but it's also very serviceable. The offensive line is fantastic. I think that's all the pieces around him that he would need to win, and I think that'd be a great fit. As for Allen Robinson, I do not have him teaming up with Mitch Trubisky. I have Allen Robinson. A good fit, in my opinion, for him would be the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
I know Lamar Jackson, a lot of confidence has been dropped. Like people have lost confidence in him over the last season. A lot of it was injury.
Never had it. I don't know why.
Also true. But he's also never really had a number one receiver if you really think about it. I mean, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
He's not a bad receiver, but I also don't think he's a true number one. I think he's a solid number two. He has a good tight end in Mark Andrews. Love Mark Andrews. But he needs a true number one receiver. And I know Allen Robinson's coming off of a very, very, very bad year with the Bears. But that's also in a Matt Nagy-led offense where no one looks good. I think him going into a he's also not that bad. He's a bigger body, which is good for in the run game as a blocker, which the Ravens run the ball a lot, so it's a good fit there as well. I think getting that true number one receiver for Lamar Jackson, all the players coming up back healthy, which they had a ton of injuries last year, I think that would be a good fit. They could instantly go back into contention for a Super Bowl. I think that would be like out of my entire list, I feel like that's probably the best fit, maybe other than Teron Armstead.
Fair enough. Okay. Let's see. Where am I on my list? So it's funny that you brought up Jameis Winston because he's actually on my list, and I have Jameis Winston going to the Dolphins. Yes, you like Tua. I get it, and I like Tua too. There's a lot of things great about him, but one, he seems to not ever be able to stay healthy throughout a full season, and two, the biggest thing about Tua is that hey, he can't push the ball down the field. He needs those short yard passes, and Jameis Winston's the exact opposite. If Jameis Winston can come back healthy, the way we saw him with Sean Payton and the Saints, I understand it's not Sean Payton, but still, he looked good. He looked like he knew what he was doing. He's really good at the deep balls, except for with the Bucs because it was a 50-50 shot. But overall, I think it's a good change of pace for the Dolphins. It'll suck for Tua. I don't know what their plan for Tua is going to be. Even if they keep Tua, I really don't see them being that successful. I think I was not happy when Flores was gone. I never really got that. I don't necessarily see the Dolphins being that successful with Tua right now and without Flores being there. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I think my second option for Jameis Winston was the Lions because I've never liked Jared Goff. I will never like Jared Goff. And I think that the Giants are not the Giants, I'm sorry, the Lions are they're on the move. I don't know how far they'll get, but even though I was so happy for them last year. Towards the end of the year, and I was rooting for them. I started off the season making so much fun of them, and I'll be the first to say I'm sorry about that because I have a lot of respect for that team now. I don't think they'll get very far, but
I think that they're probably a better team than the Bears are right now, so I'll give them that credit.
this is very true. Who else do I got? Let's see. Allen Robinson. Okay, so my next up is Von Miller. I want Von Miller to go back to the Denver Broncos. I think it'll be an awesome story. He played over there, won the Super Bowl MVP, just got traded to the Rams, helped win the Super Bowl. Now he's going to be a free agent. Go back, sign with your home team, play with Russell Wilson, and then retire. And hopefully you get to win another Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. So I think I don't have too much more to say to that. It has nothing to do with his performance. It has everything to do with just it being an awesome story. So I got Von Miller going to the Broncos. Plus, I think he wants to go back.
He's made that kind of clear on social media. But to kind of go off of yours, I don't have Jameis Winston on my list. I'm not going to just completely shut down your idea here with the Dolphins. I will say I don't think they'll give up on Tua just yet. If this was like next offseason and Tua played the exact same, I could very well see that. But Mike McDaniel, excuse me, no S on the end. He's with the Shanahan tree, which I know that for the most part, like with the 49ers, yeah, they'll take deep shots every once in a while, but for the most part, they're like a power running offense. And like kind of like a West Coast thing, which when you compare like arm strengths, I think that Garoppolo and Tua are pretty similar. They're both like relatively, they're pretty good accurately like on shorter passes, not really necessarily going deep.
Yeah.
So I feel like they'll give Tua a shot to kind of so McDaniel can go back to translate the 49ers offense to Miami. I could see them doing that. If that wasn't the case, I do think Winston would be a good change of pace for the Dolphins to kind of switch things up. To go off your Von Miller thing, my answer is going to be like the party pooper answer of the year. I said one person on my list I had staying on the same team, and for me that is Von Miller. I think Von Miller should stay with the Rams. I know it'd be one of the greatest stories ever if he went back to Denver and won a Super Bowl with them, to ride off into the sunset back with his old team. But at the same time, with the situation with the Bears are in, I'm kind of having to bandwagon with the Rams at this point. I want them to keep the talent. I think that Von Miller fits well. I think not only talent-wise on the field, but how he's made Aaron Donald that much greater of a leader than he was up until this point. I think it's a great fit for the Rams. I will not be mad if he goes back to Denver. I think that would be awesome. Also for the fact that the AFC West is by far going to be the best division next year. It is going to be insane.
Oh yeah.
Given that I've already given up hope on the Bears at this point, I'm just going to watch all the AFC West games because I'm very, very excited for those. To add another one, I will go with a player formerly of the AFC West in Tyrann Mathieu, the safety from the Chiefs. I do have him leaving the Chiefs, and it is going to a team that I've already previously mentioned.
Broncos?
I think that's not the Broncos.
Okay,
I kind of want to keep this
to the
semi-realistically with cap space, but I think Tyrann Mathieu in the Colts would be a good fit. I think that the Colts have a great defense as is. I already mentioned this.
Oh, okay.
But adding a great safety like Tyrann Mathieu to that defense, I think we just put them over the top and make them even greater of a defense that even if Mitch Trubisky doesn't work out in my scenario where he goes there, if that defense is that good, I think they can work around it and just rely on the run game enough and that offensive line that they can make do. And I think Tyrann Mathieu would just make that defense just so good that obviously it matters who your quarterback is, but it would make it matter a whole lot less if your defense is that good.
So I also have Tyrann Mathieu on the list. I had him much closer to my number one, but I'm just gonna, since you brought him up, so I don't have him going to the Broncos. Also, looking through my list, I realized that 40% of, or 4 out of my 10 is actually going to the Broncos. But I actually have Tyrann Mathieu going to Washington. And I don't necessarily think that's a win now team or anything like that, but I do think that Washington, as great as their front seven is, they can definitely use some help on the secondary. And him being a safety, I think it'll be a good addition, especially to the young players on Washington. They just got Carson Wentz as well, quarterback. I can see that going either way. I really don't know if that's much of a threat, but as far as an upgrade, I definitely think it could be an upgrade. But I like your pick for the Colts a lot better. I'm not gonna lie. Looking through the list, I don't know why I didn't pick a single person to the Colts.
I don't know if you looked at the salary cap, but the Colts, I think, have the most salary after the Wentz deal.
I don't trust salary cap anymore. I think I told you about this before.
I will say this. I looked at the salary to an extent because I'll be honest, at this point, I don't know how salary cap works because the Packers just keep making money appear. The Saints keep making money appear. I don't know how it works, but I mean, when you Google salary cap lists, the Colts have the most money right now, so I think that means they can spend some money.
You, man. It's like taxes.
Speaking of lots of salary cap, a player who I think that is going to get a huge deal, maybe to a bad team, is J.C. Jackson. Now, the team I have him going to, they're not that bad, but it's another AFC West team. It's the Las Vegas Raiders. And in comparison to the rest of that division, they're a bad team, but they do have money to spend. I think that they could go for a corner. I think their offense, by the standards of the team, their offense is pretty good. Their defense has a lot of holes that they really need to fix, including cornerback. And I think getting debatably the best cornerback in the game is a good way to fix that, and I think J.C. Jackson would be a good fit for the Raiders.
Okay. That's actually a good one.
I feel like all mine are pretty good, but with the Patriots in this scenario losing J.C. Jackson, they have a little bit more money. Their defense, I think Belichick can make magic with some McDonald's workers. It doesn't really matter who's on the defense. So what they do need is some receivers. A big time receiver who technically they're not a free agent, so this is kind of I don't know if this should be on my list at all, but it's a rumor they're going to get cut unless they get traded, but I don't see them getting traded with the size of their contract. Is Amari Cooper of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't. Again, he's not technically a free agent as of yet. He's still under contract. They may trade him, but I don't see anyone trading for that contract. I think that the Patriots need to go get a number one receiver for Mac Jones. Mac Jones looked great last season, and he didn't even have that great of a receiving core to throw to. I think adding an Amari Cooper, who I know wasn't even the greatest last season, I think Amari Cooper is still a very, very good receiver, and he will be very beneficial for a young quarterback. And I think Amari Cooper's best fit, if not with the Chicago Bears or the New York Jets or the Jaguars with a young quarterback, I feel like overall the best would be for the Patriots because of the young quarterback. I feel like they're a team that's still a contender, which would be something Amari Cooper would be interested in, as well as they have the money and he'll be a true number one receiver there. I feel like that's overall just a good fit.
Okay, so since you brought up the Patriots, I'm actually going to throw this at you, and because I kept going back and forth on this a little bit, okay? So, 2 receivers, 2 teams. I just don't know which one to put where. And I don't have Amari Cooper on there because he's technically not a free agent, right? He could potentially be traded. I got Chris Godwin. He's going to be a free agent.
Chris Godwin got tagged.
Did he really?
I think he got. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he got tagged.
He got tagged last year.
Yeah, you can get tagged 2 years in a row.
He got tagged again?
I'm pretty sure he got tagged.
Oh, then never mind. Man, I had Chris. You know who else is going to be a free agent? You want to go after Amari Cooper? OBJ is going to be a free agent.
Which, again, on the OBJ thing, he is a free agent. I feel like it's almost guaranteed going back to the Rams at this point.
Probably. But can I give you a better team for OBJ to go to?
Yes. If you want to give me a better team for Chris Godwin, you can go ahead and throw that out there too if you really
Well, I was going to pick one of these to go to the Patriots.
Okay.
Okay? And that's what I was going to let you pick. But I think OBJ can be very useful in Denver. I understand Denver doesn't have they have a pretty solid wide receiving core, but they're not by any means like a top 10 or anything. And adding Russell Wilson in there and getting a threat like OBJ, especially for when Wilson decides to extend plays and want to take a shot down the field, I think it'll be a very fun duo to watch. So I actually had OBJ to the Broncos, and then I had Chris Godwin to the Patriots, but I did not realize that Chris Godwin got tagged. When?
I want to say it was a few days ago.
Oh, man. Okay, that's unfortunate.
Well, I wanted him to be a Chicago Bear, so yeah, it was very unfortunate for me as well. I guess if we're going to just get rid of all of the receiver options, I have 2 more left on my list, which one, Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think his value is going to be pretty low given last year he was a free agent and I was coming off of a pretty good year. He was injured most of this year. He didn't even get that much money last season. He got a 1-year deal for I think $8 or $9 million to stay in Pittsburgh. He had an even worse year with the fact that he was injured most of it. I feel like his value is going to go down even farther, so you could probably get him for a solid deal. I don't think he'll go back to Pittsburgh. I think that's kind of off the table at this point. I don't know how they'll get the salary cap to work, but I do know it's a team that is interested in signing him is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
I know that they don't necessarily. It's kind of like a Denver getting an OBJ kind of situation. They don't necessarily need a receiver, But at the same time, if you have the ability to get a receiver of that level, why not? Because with the Chiefs, the receiving core, it works, but it's all very similar. They have, like a speedster in Tyreek Hill. They have a speedster in Mecole Hardman, and then they had like a route runner. In first, it was Sammy Watkins, then it was Byron Pringle or Robinson. I think that since Robinson and Pringle are free agents, and obviously Sammy Watkins not there anymore, I think them getting like a big bodied route running receiver in Juju Smith-Schuster would be a great fit for that team. Again, they don't need a better offense. They need to probably work on the defense more, but I feel like getting a Juju on that team would definitely benefit them a lot. For the last receiver on my list, I couldn't go an entire list without bringing up the Chicago Bears. DJ Chark, the receiver from the Jaguars, I feel like would be such a good fit for the Bears. It's known that they're showing interest in him. He's got a lot of speed. He's a great deep threat receiver, which the Bears only had deep threats last year, but the only receivers we have under contract for next season is Darnell Mooney, Daz Newsome, who was our 6th round pick, who didn't even make the active roster till like week 15, and then 2 practice squad receivers. They don't have any under contract, so they're going to have to refill the entire receiving core by scratch. And I feel like starting with DJ Chark to take the top off the defense is a great start for that. You're going to have to benefit your your young quarterback, give him some weapons to work with, and I think DJ Chark, you could get him for a solid deal. He's had some injury history in his career, but he has a lot of potential to be great. Luring him away from the Jaguars, because they probably wouldn't do the same thing with Trevor Lawrence as they made a tricky part, but I think he would be a great fit in Chicago.
Okay. That's actually not a bad one. Except, here's the thing. At this point, I don't want anyone going to Chicago if I want their career to be have any success at all. So that's the only thing I'm going to disagree with you on it. So here's, I have 2 left. And I think I actually have 2 really, really good ones left. And that's why I was saving them.
Okay.
I got both of these guys going from the same team to the same team. Rob Gronkowski and Ryan Jensen.
Okay.
To the Bengals.
I like it.
They can use the offensive line help for sure. Ryan Jensen is an amazing center. We've seen that throughout the last 2 years. He's a free agent. I think Bengals will for sure take that in a heartbeat. Gronk has already expressed interest, saying that he would want to go play for, why can't I think of his name right now?
Joe Burrow.
Thank you. It's been a long day, guys. Joe Burrow. Also, but here's the thing. We talk about making their offensive line better. Rob Gronkowski is one of the greatest blocking tight ends to ever play the game. He can catch, he can run with the football, he can run over some people with the football, and he can catch over a lot of people. That we've seen. But we've also seen, but some often fail to notice, is that there are so many times where he is a lead blocker on the offensive line. And there's so many times where he's blocking and then he just lets go, few steps, 3-step drop, boom, catches the ball for a 5-yard gain, which oftentimes in games are so important, especially when you're trying to convert for a quick first down or try to get close to a first down marker on a 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8, whatever the case is. So I think both of them together going to the Bengals, who has a very young, amazing quarterback, great everything, right? They have a really good defense. They have really good everything except for that offensive line, really. And I think they can definitely help them. And those are my last 2 going to the Bengals back in the Super Bowl, if that happens.
I honestly, of all of the picks we've said so far, I think those 2 would probably be my favorite. I know that these are all hypotheticals, but they get me excited nonetheless to picture any of these happening. I actually have 3 left on my list. None of them are as big names as Gronk, but actually one of them might be. But I'll start off with Hassan Reddick, who was on the Cardinals last year. He signed kind of like a prove-it deal with the Panthers to kind of make more money this offseason, which is what he's probably going to do. He had a really good season his last year with the Cardinals. He had a really good season last year with the Panthers as well. I have him going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is another one of my picks that it's not necessarily a need for the team. But, the Steelers, they have TJ Watt, which obviously one of the best pass rushers in the league and of all time. Last season, on the opposite side, they had Melvin Ingram before they traded him to Kansas City. You could use a pass rusher on the other side. If you have TJ Watt on one side and Hassan Reddick on the other side, great combination. Obviously, they need a quarterback more importantly than anything on the defense, especially an edge rusher. But with that being said, there's not really many options at quarterback. You can bolster the defense. Maybe you can get him on a better deal than what I'm picturing in my head. But I think Reddick, on the opposite side of Watt, they would both add sacks to each other. So it's kind of like, whenever you have a great pass rusher on one side, they get double teams. The rest of the players get a lot better stats. I feel like it'll help out Hassan Reddick quite a bit. I have Evan Ingram, the tight end from the New York Giants. I know his big problem throughout his career has always been his hands, that he can't catch, which is very true. With that being said, I do have him going to the Arizona Cardinals.
Like the drop balls there?
Yes, but he's still a good tight end nonetheless. He's had plenty of time to get his hands better, but it hasn't really worked out. But hypothetically, if he can clear this up,
I'm sorry. How do you get your hands better?
You can grip strength. Don't look at me like I'm dumb. It's a thing. You get grip strength.
Just thought it was
funny. Okay, off topic, but with the Cardinals, their thing, yes, Kyler Murray is one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league, so we're going to ignore him for half a second here. At running back, James Conner, kind of like a bruising back, not really fast. DeAndre Hopkins is like a go-up-get-it physical receiver, not that fast. They're losing Christian Kirk. They're probably losing Andy Isabella. So they don't really have any speed on the team. Evan Ingram, whether his hands work or not, he's a very fast tight end, and I feel like that will help their offense get more speed, which is what I think they need, and kind of open up the field a little bit for them. Last season, I know they want to bring him back, but their tight end they traded for was Zach Ertz. I feel like even if you do bring Zach Ertz back, pairing him with an Evan Ingram would be great for an offense. Zach Ertz, Jason Witten levels of speed here. He's not a very fast guy. You pair that with some speed at the tight end position, it causes mismatches. And I love two tight end sets. I've loved it since I started watching really early on. There was the Gronk and Aaron Hernandez combination, and ever since then, I've loved two tight end sets. I think that'd be one of the best two tight end sets in the league. And lastly, on my list, I have Bobby Wagner.
Ooh.
Which I want to change the team I have listed because there's two that I was neck and neck wanting to pick, which they're both in the AFC West. I will say the one I have written down is the Los Angeles Chargers. I feel like their offense, with Justin Herbert, their offense is going to be good. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He is basically a prodigy. He's insane. Their offense was good last year. Their defense, I feel like, could have been a lot better. Obviously, they just added Khalil Mack. But if you could get someone like a Bobby Wagner over the middle, I feel like that's just insane. I also could see him going to Denver, though. Following Russell Wilson to Denver, bolstering that already insane defense, and having one of the best defenses in the league with what could potentially be one of the best offenses in the league. Not an instant to get to a Super Bowl or anything, but it gives you a really good shot. I think if I'm going to make a final decision, I think that the better fit would be Denver to follow Russell Wilson, but I would also really like to see him go to the Chargers.
Yeah, I actually had Zach Ertz as an honorary mention for the Denver Broncos as well. I'm still not 100% sure, which we'll get to in a second, how I feel about the Russell Wilson trade, but at the same time, the football fanatic in me is just yeah, everybody to the Broncos. I want to see what happens now. So, but okay, cool. I also have Zach Ertz. My second team that I wrote down was just for him to go back to the Cardinals if they can make something happen, but I don't think they are. I don't know what's going on with Kyler. but man, it doesn't sound too pretty. But that's cool, man. I'm excited for free agency, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see how accurate we are. We'll come back and take a look.
We'll see how many our percentage of how many we get right. Probably not
Yeah,
be a whopping 0, but we'll see.
probably. So real quick, we're gonna take a couple of minutes to talk about some of the crazy trades that recently happened, including the one you just found out about right before the show, which is the Khalil Mack. So I'm actually gonna start with that. So the Khalil Mack just got traded to the Chargers for a second round pick this year and a sixth round pick next year. Is that right? So
Okay.
I don't think you really need to give us your thoughts on it because I can just.
I don't want to sound biased or jump the gun on this trade, but this might be the worst trade in all of NFL history. Ryan Poles, I was very confident in, and I get that he wants to make his own team and rebuild it from scratch. But that's all you could get for one of the best pass rushers in the league. That's it. You must be the worst negotiator of all time. Like, I don't understand how all you get. Von Miller was having injury problems, and I feel like he's right up there with Khalil Mack. They got a second and a third, which I also isn't even that good, but a second and a third for Von Miller, we couldn't even get that. We couldn't get close to that. I could rant about this for like hours. It's one of the dumbest trades ever, and my confidence in the Bears front office has dropped tremendously. Unless they get an absolute stud in this draft with the pick or use it to trade up or something. Awful trade. I will say to look at the positives, the AFC West was already about to be the most fun division to watch in football. Now it's going to be even better, and I can't wait.
Yeah, so I think I'm obviously not as outraged as you because I don't care too much for the Chargers, and I've never ever cared too much for the Bears.
You're a Bears fan. It's okay.
I am not a Bears fan, sir. Let's get that very clear. But I do think the trade is dumb. I think getting a second and a sixth, and not even this year. First of all, what are you even gonna? Who do you even draft as a sixth round pick? Like, what are you? You're essentially getting nothing, or not nothing, but you're essentially getting close to nothing, in my opinion, for giving up a guy at the caliber of Khalil Mack. It's just I don't know. Doesn't sound right. Like you said, must be the worst negotiator. Just like let me get a second and a third round pick. It's like heck no, I'll give you a second and be like you drive a hard bargain. Okay, fine, you can have them. End of discussion.
I don't want to be too hard on him, but this very much reminds me of the DeAndre Hopkins trade to the Cardinals. Like, oh, well, we'll give you the best receiver in football. You give us a washed running back who doesn't even play and a second round pick.
Well, keep in mind, one of the worst general managers in football, in my opinion, was also in charge when DeAndre Hopkins got traded.
That's what I'm saying. I think Ryan Poles is on that level right now.
Bill O'Brien. Coaching college now, right? So we have another one. More fun one, in my opinion. Carson Wentz just went to Washington Commanders. It's going to take me a minute to get used to saying Washington Commanders. So if I keep saying Washington or the Washington football team, I want to apologize in advance. But Wentz to the Commanders for a third round this year, and I believe it's a third round next year that can potentially be changed to a second round pick if he plays, I think it was 70% or more snaps.
70%, yeah.
So,
and then they also swap seconds. This trade doesn't make a lot of sense to me from the Commanders' standpoint, which again, yeah, I kind of agree. It doesn't roll off the tongue very well yet. But the Commanders, I will give them credit. They literally were calling every team trying to get a quarterback, and they kept getting turned down. Russell Wilson had a no trade clause, didn't want to play for him. Aaron Rodgers, who I think the entire time he wanted to stay in Green Bay, he just wants his attention. It makes sense. They can't do the Deshaun Watson thing because of the PR. They already have a terrible PR where they're at. That would be a terrible combination. But how, after all of this, do you settle on Carson Wentz of all people? I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think is that much better than Carson Wentz, but he is better, and I feel like you could have gotten him for around the same thing. Also, on a less serious note, Jimmy Garoppolo will bring you a lot more fans from the female demographic than Carson Wentz will. I feel like there's just no upside to trading for Carson. He's not going to make you any better. How have you saw this with the Las Vegas betting odds for like the Commanders winning the Super Bowl at like before and after the Wentz trade? It went down. They have worse odds since trading for Carson Wentz to win the Super Bowl.
That's just messed up.
I don't like. It just feels like it was an act of desperation because again, with his trade from the Eagles to the Colts, people were saying like he went to Frank Reich, who I think is a great coach. If anyone was going to be able to redeem Carson Wentz, it'd be him. You think Ron Rivera is going to be able to do that in Washington? I don't see it. I think that was a terrible trade for the Commanders there. I think the Colts did a good job getting something back for their dumb trade of trading a first-round pick for him, but I think that it was just rushed and desperate, and they could have gotten so many better options if they were that desperate for a quarterback.
So here's where I disagree with Washington making this trade. They probably could have tried to get Jameis Winston from free agency,
who I also think is better than Carson Wentz to begin with without giving anything up. Yeah.
Right. So, but besides that, if you look, because like you said, they did try hard. They called every team trying to see what type of trade they can get, right, for quarterbacks, and they couldn't. So the best option, as far as Carson Wentz goes, is it the best option? No, I don't think it is. But is it better than Taylor Heineke? I think it is. They won 7 games last year, and they actually don't have a bad team. And Ron Rivera is actually not a bad coach. And plus, it's a very short-term thing, right? Because what's going to happen is they have to give up a 3rd-round pick this year. That's not the end of the world, in my opinion. They have to give up a 2nd or 3rd-round pick next year. If Carson Wentz sucks throughout the year, they're going to bench him, make sure he doesn't play 70% of the snaps, and at that point, they're only going to give up another 3rd-round pick. Taylor Heineke wasn't a long-term solution anyway, and neither is Carson Wentz. So from that point of view, I don't think it's that big of a loss I actually think it's, from a quarterback position going into this year, in my opinion, it is an upgrade. In the long term, I don't think it's an upgrade, but in the long term, Heineke is also not the guy. So I don't know. I think it was a win-win for both teams.
One thing I will add to this, though, I think that they honestly, again, I'm no GM. There's a reason I'm not a GM, but I feel like Winston would be a better option. Trubisky would be a better option. I'm also taking into account they wouldn't have to give up picks for these people. I think Wentz is maybe better than Trubisky. At least he's shown that he can be better. But you don't have to give up picks for Trubisky. Trubisky's younger. There's potential there. Winston, like you had mentioned earlier, with the Bucs, he was kind of like 50-50. With the Saints, before he got injured, he looked really good. Then, if all else fails, you can take a flyer on a rookie quarterback, and I feel like that would be a better option. Which, honestly, with their 1st-round pick or in the 2nd one, I still feel like they could. Yeah. But then I feel like it's just a waste to get Wentz in the first place.
Yeah, and I also want to say this, right? All the bad rep about the biggest reason this trade is such a failure, or considered such a failure, has everything to do with the fact that he wasn't as successful as everyone thought he would be with the Colts, right? And I don't know, maybe things will change. I don't know. I'm 50-50 on this trade. It doesn't hurt me either way. So I'll give you a better one. Russell Wilson just went to the Broncos. They got Drew Lock. Nobody cares about that. Shelby Harris, Noah Fant, and then a 2nd. Is it a 2nd and a 1st-round pick?
Is that what it was? I honestly like the trade from both sides. Originally, when I first saw the trade, I'm like, Denver won this trade without a doubt. You get a star quarterback. But with the Seahawks, you obviously weren't going anywhere. I feel like they definitely need to trade some other players. Cough, cough. Jamal Adams. Cough, cough. But I feel like what they need is a rebuild. Pete Carroll probably is going to retire. I assumed he was going to retire this year. He probably still should at this point. I feel like he's not going to want to go through a rebuild, with considering his age and everything. But I feel like they definitely need a rebuild. They weren't winning even with Russell Wilson like last year. I think getting those picks is definitely good for them. They had lost picks in the Jamal Adams trade, which again is why I think they should trade him and get more picks. And they cut Bobby Wagner. I feel like they could have gotten something for him to benefit them. But
yeah.
I feel like trading is a good idea. Trade Tyler Lockett, Jamal Adams, like all of the not aging players, but the vets you could get some value for. Just go through a complete rebuild. I will say on your whole nobody cares about Drew Lock thing, I know it's a long shot, but I feel like Drew Lock still has the potential to be a good, serviceable starting quarterback in the league. Because I will say, whenever he first came to the league, I think he started off like 4-0, I believe, and then he got hurt. I want to say, and then like last season, he didn't even get like a shot. They just immediately traded for Teddy Bridgewater, gave him the starting job, and then like Drew Lock was never seen again. I know he played in a few games this year and didn't look fantastic, but I also feel like it's a lot harder to just get thrown into a game and expect to succeed than to like work with the number ones in the offseason. I'm not saying Drew Lock's going to come out here and be a superstar, but I think Drew Lock could be a serviceable starting quarterback. Is he going to look great in Seattle this year? Probably not, because they're going to have to get rid of everyone, and not even Russell Wilson could look great at all times behind that awful offensive line. But I don't mind the Drew Lock move. Shelby Harris, interesting decision. Aging defensive lineman. I feel like he was just kind of thrown in that trade. Kind of feel bad for him because he didn't get to stick around for Denver's success. But Noah Fant, I do like him as a tight end. He hasn't really like set the league on fire like he was supposed to. I think he was like the 19th overall pick a few years ago by Denver. I think he's still a good tight end. I think he could definitely be a solid starter for them. But like I said, I think they're going to go through a rebuild, which is the smart thing to do here. And I think it's a win-win on both sides. I will say I feel bad for Seahawks fans, though, because this is probably the same thing with me in the Bears trade, but I feel like you never want to see your players go, and you don't ever want to accept the fact that you have to rebuild, and it's really sad. Russell Wilson has been there for a long time. Bobby Wagner has been there for a long time, been both competing at super high levels, and now they're just gone. I feel like it's one of the saddest things ever. Bears have never had a quarterback I've had to be sad about leaving before.
So, just like you in the very beginning when I first heard this trade, I was like, oh my God, the Broncos got the deal of a lifetime. The more I think about it, I think I like Wilson to Broncos a hell of a lot more than I like Wentz to Washington. And I do think at the end of the day, this is more beneficial to the Broncos than it is to the Seahawks. But Seahawks, like you said, they're kind of going on a rebuild mode to where they're like, take everybody. Real quick on the Drew Lock point. Drew Lock has been in the league for how many years now? It's not 2.
I want to say, is it like 3 or 4?
Drew Lock has played enough for me to say, well, he came into the league, won a couple of games, got injured, and then he was benched all throughout. No, he has started on many occasions and then got benched because he wasn't performing. So, and was he the number 1 pick?
In the draft?
Yeah.
He was a 2nd round pick.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I thought he was a number 1 pick for some reason, and I was just like,
No, I want to say he was like around like 38th overall or something like that.
Fair enough. Okay. Dude, I think here's where the Broncos will have to do the work. Offensive line. Broncos will need to have a slightly tweak their offensive line a little better. If they can make that happen, then this team can be great. Because defensively, they're phenomenal. Their special teams, pretty solid. We talked about it, receiving core, offense, everything for the most part, not too bad. Their offensive line, however, last year from time to time, they were struggling. It wasn't all throughout the season, but there were occasions where they just couldn't get their crap together. So if the offensive line can get their stuff together and they put Russell Wilson in the center, and Russell Wilson has more to prove than a lot of people think, in my opinion, just because Russell Wilson made a lot of plays in the past and has gone to Super Bowls and what. The last time Russell Wilson was in a Super Bowl was 7 years ago.
It's been that long, jeez.
Yes, and I don't think people realize that. And that's with Marshawn Lynch and the Legion of Boom. So since then, they've only made the playoffs, I want to say, about 4 times or maybe 5 times in 7. That's not terrible, but considering that the Rams just started getting better a couple of years ago, the 49ers just started getting better a couple of years ago, and the Cardinals also just started getting better a couple of years ago. The Cardinals, last time they were really good, was 2015, the year after the Seahawks, and that's when they played really well and got their teeth kicked in by the Panthers in the NFC Championship game, and they have not been the same since until Kyler came. And even with Kyler, they're not that they start off great, so everyone thinks that they're such a great team, but they don't end well. So with that division just recently starting to be better, Russell Wilson, in my opinion, has a lot to prove. This is a fresh, good start for him. This could be a really good trade if they can make the best of it. So, yeah.
I can agree on that.
I think that's all the traits I have written down. Unless, and then of course, your boy, your favorite, decided to stay with Green Bay. So,
we don't need to talk about that. He doesn't need any more attention.
All right. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up for the day?
No, I think that's about it. Other than free agency, the legal tampering period starts on Monday at noon, I believe. So they're right around then. I know teams are going to be tampering now. It happens. They just don't get caught.
Oh yeah.
But I'm excited for the legal tampering because as soon as it hits noon, you're going to start seeing like 13 deals just like right off the bat, just all popping off, and I'm super excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited for free agency. I can't wait to see if I really, really hope out of everything that I just said, I think I'll be extremely excited for the Bengals if Brian Jensen and Rob Gronkowski goes there. I think that'll be awesome to see.
I do find it funny. I think you had them missing the playoffs in our prediction.
I know, and then we started talking about free agency.
You said if you add them to, then it's like a Super Bowl again.
Super return, yeah. Well,
I get
isn't that what they needed?
I get it.
All right. Well, that's all I have for the day. So unless you have anything else to add, we'll wrap this up and give the Friday back to the people.
I do not, but you have a good one.
Thank you so much for joining. Have a fantastic one. Also, check out Jose's new interview that he just posted on our Facebook page and our website, coolsportsguy.com. Have a good night, guys.